Welcome, everybody. We are live. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and we are nothing if not punctual today. So, I am Craig here to present this live webinar for you today. Excited to be here. I'll introduce myself for those of you who haven't met me yet or watched one of these webinars. I've been with DBA for a few years now. And before that, I was a small business banker in the retail banking segment for or sector for a couple of banks. I was also a small business owner myself. So any of you who are worried about finding a practice, then buying a practice, and then running a practice, I've been there. I get it. I've been not exactly in your shoes, but I've done some similar things in my past as well. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Today we are talking. Oh, you know what? I should remind you, if you're watching live, we do have Q&A after this session. So put your questions in the comments section as we go, and then I'll get to them. Thanks to those who sent a couple questions before we got started. Okay, now let's get started. Today we're talking about finding a practice to buy. This is the number one topic. Oh gosh, it kind of bounces around number one or number two, but this is among the most common things that we get asked at Dental Buyer Advocates. How in the world do I find a practice to buy? Well, it's not easy, but there is a formula. Well, sort of. Let's call it an art and a science. All right. We're going to talk about the best way. Okay. We've worked with thousands of dentists across the country for the last, going on a decade almost at this point. And so we've seen how people go about their search process. We've seen what works. We know the process. We know what's going to be percentage wise the most likely thing to be successful for you. So we're going to talk about those things today. Now, the first question we have to address is, when do I start? And I hesitate to say it's never too early, but it's pretty close to never too early. Okay. So uh, I'm trying to think through. Yeah, I guess there are some scenarios where if you're a high school senior and you think you might want to get into dentistry, don't start your practice search yet. Okay. But if you're a D3, or even a D2, it is not too early to begin thinking about the process and taking some of the steps that we're going to talk about today. Okay. So, whether you are a D3 right now or you've been practicing for 10 years and you're just thinking, now's the time. I think ownership might be in my future. Start today. I am going to give you some actionable items that you can go through and do today. All right. So before we get there, let's talk about why you should start today, why this is something you should approach with some urgency. And that's because, frankly, some of the demographics we're seeing in the dental industry, the supply of younger dentists versus older dentists is tilting pretty significantly toward the younger side. Okay. Oops. Let's go the other way. And on top of that, the number of dentists continues to grow. I mean, you guys are part of this wave. I assume most of you watching along live or with the recording afterwards. You're part of this wave of newer, younger dentists, people who are entering dental school, right? Applicants and enrollment continues to go up. And what does this mean? Basically, there are more dentists in the country than there have been in the past, and there's going to be more competition for you. Okay. So, and we'll address that competition aspect in a moment as well, but just let that kind of light a fire a little bit, right? It shouldn't create any panic. Like, look, ownership is still very much possible. There are plenty of great practices out there to find. So don't let this create panic, but let it create some urgency. That this is, if it's something that you see in your future, it's something that you can start on right now. Okay. And this was just a fun one. I thought for some of you across the country, you may have an easier time than others in the next decade or so. These are states with who have an older dentist in the workforce, like it says on the bottom or on the left there. The darker it is, those are ones where 2 and 5 of the dentists are 55 or older. So there could be a wave um, of retirements coming on. But again, don't let this cause any panic. Let it cause some urgency. If you are living in Montana or you're in Colorado where it's sitting at 21%, one of these states with the lower numbers that you see here, no worries. There are still plenty of good practices to buy. You just might have to work a little harder and a little longer to find them. Okay. So let's get started with the meat of how. All right. So that was the why you want to get started now. This is how you're going to get started. Okay. Or how you're going to find the practice. So, when we talk about finding a practice to buy, at Dental Buyer Advocates, we use the 80/20 rule. When you're looking for a practice to buy, whatever time you devote to your practice search, whether it's an hour a week or 5 hours a week or whatever, 80% of that time should be spent building a network of other dentists. And the other 20% of your time is spent working with brokers. Now, today we are going to focus in on the 80% part of that, right? The 80 part of the 80/20 rule. The 20 part is important as well, okay? But that is going to be for a future webinar that we'll do. Today we're concentrating on this one. And so when we get to the end, if you have questions that you want to throw my way, about working with brokers or whatnot, I can probably skim across a few things there, but the bulk of today is going to be about building your network with other dentists. Okay, so when we talk about networking, right? Oof, I know a bunch of you just kind of shuddered a little bit. Oh, I hate networking is no fun. I hate schmoozing and glad handing. Okay, fair enough. There are plenty of other ways you can do it, right? But what does it actually mean to network, to build a network? Who is in your network? If someone is in your network, it simply means that they know you, they like you, they would answer your call or an email from you, and they know that you're looking for a practice to buy. All right, very simple criteria here. And we're not looking for, as Brian, our founder, likes to say, we're not looking for godparents for your children here. So when it says they know you and they like you, it's not that you guys are hanging out on the weekends or anything like that. It's simply that they know your name and they have some kind of positive, warm feelings about you, right? When your name comes up, they don't go, oh man, oh, that guy, right? Okay. So that's what it means if someone is in your network. So if you want to build your network, and then we're going to talk, as we get toward the end of this, about more about how this will help you. But you know what? Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that now and then more later. Okay, so building your network. Why do you want to build your network? Why do you want to get names into your network? It's because the reason that it's the 80/20 rule and not the 50/50 rule or something like that is because most of the best practices are going to be found from this network that we're going to be talking about here. When dentists sell a practice, um, they they may contact a broker first. Some of them may do that. Others are going to be talking about it. They're on the golf course with their buddy, or they're at a CE event, or what have you. And they start talking to their friends and they go, yeah, I'm thinking it's probably about, it's getting close to time to hang up the handpiece. Yeah, I probably have like 2 or 3 years left in me, right? They're having these conversations with other dentists. And one of their friends, let's say, they're at an event, they're mingling and they're talking with their other dentist buddies, and somebody says, yeah, I'm thinking about hanging up the handpiece in a couple of years. And somebody else in the group says, it's funny you mentioned that. I know a gal who is, a recent grad, and she's going to be looking for a practice to buy soon. I should put you guys in touch. That's the network, right? That is how the best practices usually, often, are bought and sold, right? How they are found. It's through this network. Okay. Uh, when we will talk about brokers again later and how they factor into all this, but just be aware that many of the best practices are changing hands before they ever hit any broker lists, and you want to be the person who finds out about it before it gets to that point, right? You don't want to be the last in line. You want to be first in line. That's what this is all about. All right. So now we can get into our 3 steps to building your network. You need to create your list, grow your list, and maintain your list. All right. I'm trying to keep things very, very simple here. And we can talk about how you can blow some of this out and make it more complex, which is not such a bad thing, right? But a lot of us, myself included, prefer to keep things simple. And so that's what we're going to try to do here today. So let's start with creating your list. If you're looking for something you can do right now, today, to start the practice search process, this is it. Create your list. All right. I know you can't see this. This is very small. In fact, maybe I can kind of put myself up here so you can see it a little bit better. But you're going to simply make a list. All right. So you'll create, in this case, it's a spreadsheet. It can be whatever you want. I think spreadsheets are easiest for this sort of thing. But you're going to create a list with names, contact info, and the contact that you've had with these folks. All right. The goal of this list eventually is to get 100 names on there. If that sounds like a lot, you're right. It is a lot. And it should take you between a year and two to populate this list with your dental network. All right. So uh, this is one of those areas where, as you look down here at these categories, you could make this more complex, right? Complicated, complex, whichever one. You could make this, yeah, very complex with not just the date that I last contacted them, but the date I first contacted them, and how many times we've chatted, and what are the names of their kids or whatever. You can have all sorts of notes and whatnot, but you can also keep it very, very simple. All right, so make your list, and then we're going to talk about how to populate this list. You're going to try to add about a name or two every week for the next year or two to get to 100 names, right? Give yourself a little, a few weeks off and whatnot, but you're going to try to add some names to this list. How are you going to do that? All right, let's talk growing your list here. Let's get me back over here. Okay. Um, Great way to organize your network. Well, thank you, Satna. All right. All right. Let's talk about growing your list. How are you going to do that? So this is a thoroughly non-exhaustive list, but here are some very common things that we see. And we'll dig into, especially the mailers portion of this. We're going to dig into that a little bit here in this webinar. Otherwise, when it comes to phone calls and emails and that sort of thing, I have some resources for you. Okay. I have a PDF that you'll be able to access with a breakdown of a lot more of this stuff than we're going to be able to go through during this webinar. I'll go into some deep detail, especially on the mailers thing, but there's more where that came from. All right. So mailers, I love talking to dentists on the phone about this, okay, because I do get this phone call quite a bit. Somebody will call me up and say, Craig, I'm thinking about buying a practice. I need to go through the search process. How do I do it? Where do I start? And I'll bring up mailers. And it's remarkable how on a phone call you can hear eyes rolling. Like, oh, mailers. Oh, I hate getting mailers. I hate the idea of mailers. Ooh, you get 10 of these a day in your mailbox, let alone your inbox, right, for email. But you get these mailers and you just kind of throw them in the trash, right? And so a lot of us don't have warm feelings about mailers necessarily. That is a mistake in this case. And we'll go into why. They actually work. The analogy that I often use for mailers is like robocalls or spam calls that you get on your cell phone. And you get it. It says, this is so and so from this place. Have you checked your extended car warranty and all, whatever it is. And you just hang up the phone. And we hang up the phone and we go, why are they still doing that? Nobody answers these calls. They never work. Why are we still doing this? Well, they do them because, frankly, they do work. And so why do because somebody is answering the phone. Somebody is, in that case, falling for it, right? But you think about the credit card offers that you get in the mail. You think about the, I can't tell you how many little cards a month I get in my mailbox that says, hey, I want to buy your house, right? Somebody looking to flip homes or something. They work, okay? And they can work for you too. So we're going to get into that. But it's not just about that. You can also do things a little more personally, right? You can do in-person events, CE events that are run by your local, dental society, ADA, what have you, study clubs. This is an interesting one. Listings on dental school websites. Not every school allows them. Ohio State, I know, allows them. I know there are a few others around, but you might check your dental school, see if they allow practice listings, and if they do, that might be a good resource for you. And For some of you, yeah, it is going to be more along the lines of the in-person events, right? The study clubs, the mix and mingles that the regional folks put on, the ADA and dental societies put on. So look around for those. If you have, I would say, unless you are genuinely, rigidly terrified of meeting strangers and shaking hands. Like for some of us, that's a reality. Good luck chairside, I suppose, in that case. But unless that's you, um, take the leap, right? Go out to those in-person events, shake somebody's hand, let people know that you are going to be or are in the market for a practice to buy. The worst thing that can happen is they say okay and walk away, but for some they'll be excited to talk to you about it. These are all very, very effective ways to grow that list. All right. So how do you do it when you're reaching out to folks? And we're going to talk about this a little bit with the mailers specifically, but this applies to, hey, if you're cold calling somebody, you're sending an email, you're meeting at an event, what have you. This will apply to all of these things. Be bold, be honest, and follow up. All right. So this is, I'll skip through some of this, trying to decide how much time to spend on it. But there is one piece of reassurance that I want to offer you as a potential private buyer of a private practice, and that is that you have a lot to offer. I hear a lot of people get very afraid of the DSO competition, to put it bluntly. When it comes to let's say you've got a practice, it's got a price tag of $1 million on it, and you come in as the private buyer, and you want to offer that price to them, and the DSO comes in with a huge number, right? An eye-popping number that's well over the asking price. And you think to yourself, as the private buyer, I can't compete with that. I can't throw those numbers around. And that's true. You can't throw that number around. However, you have other things to offer. First of all, when you are looking around at practices that you may potentially want to buy, these are practices that have been built up over years, maybe decades, by somebody who put their blood, sweat, and tears into making this practice into what it is, into this successful, great practice. And it's frankly just a psychological burden to think of the idea of handing it over to a corporate entity that may carry on some of the great things about your practice, but probably won't. Right? It's, hey, I built this thing. I want it to continue to be to serve the community well, or what have you. Right? So you've got that going for you. You also have immediacy. Right? Hey, I want to retire now. I need a buyer. And if I take this DSO offer, they are going to attach some strings. They need me to stay on as an associate for 3 to 5 years. Oh, I was hoping to retire now, or in 6 months. And so those strings are attached, and not to mention the production goals that those folks go through. My point being that when you come in as a private buyer, you have cards to play. Okay, so don't be afraid of that. Be bold. You are somebody that a good seller wants to hear from. All right. When you are talking to these folks, whether you're sending a mailer, shaking their hand at an event, or what have you, be honest. Okay. If it's a mailer, maybe you've done some research, you know something about their practice, and you have something nice to say. You have something nice to say because you researched their practice, and you have, and you honestly came by something that you were impressed with. Hey, it could be as simple as, I love the look of your website. Who did you go with? Or, how do I emulate that? Or maybe they have a bunch of really great Google reviews, and you want to know, how did you get 100 5-star Google reviews? That's really impressive. I'd love to pick your brain about how to do that. Or you're talking with somebody at an event, and they mention their how they went from a purely bread and butter practice to now introducing these other procedures into the mix. And oh wow, that's really interesting. I'm interested in doing those procedures as well. What were the hurdles in getting into that? I'm so impressed that you were able to shift the focus of your practice over however many years it took. So find something to compliment them about, and be honest about it. Okay. And this is one bullet that I did not put on here, but I might put a third bullet on here, which is Be upfront, be honest that I'm reaching out to you because I am looking for a practice to buy, right? You're putting that up front so that there's no they don't feel like there's a bait and switch, right? Oh, this person just wanted to get to know me and now they're asking to buy my practice. you know, you don't you don't come in with, hi, I'm Craig and I want to buy your practice. But say, hi, I'm Craig. It's really nice to meet you. Oh, that's so impressive about your practice. Thanks for showing me that, or showing the rest of the dental community how this should be done, right? Just heads up, I am in the market to buy a practice, and I'm hoping one day to buy a practice that's as good as this one. I'd love to connect with you about that and stay in touch, and be on your radar when it's time for you or somebody to retire, and that sort of thing. So you're being honest that this is why you want to make the connection. And lastly, we have follow up. When it comes to follow up, this is pretty specific stuff, right? You do it twice, right? If you're, especially with mailers, we're going to be talking about mailers, but this would go for if you send an email out or if you meet somebody at a study club or what have you. When you follow up, do it at least twice. Okay. If you're doing it 6, 7, 8 times and they're never getting back to you, well, that tells you something, right? But you want to give them a chance. You can do it at least twice, maybe 3 or 4 times at the most. Give it a week. Okay. So you sent a mailer, you shook somebody's hand. Well, actually, that might be an example where you could do it faster than a week. But you sent out a mailer, give it a week, and then send them an email. Say, hey, this is Dr. Johnson again, and I sent you a mailer a little while ago. I just wanted to follow up on that and reiterate what was in there. Because honestly, they might not have gotten it. They might have thrown it away without really looking at it, what have you. So those follow-ups are important. And switch it up, right? Phone, email. It is okay to hop on the phone and try to get in touch with somebody. If you do it respectfully, respect their time, do it at a reasonable hour of the day, and all of that. Don't try to get them on the phone for 20 minutes, but just get them on the phone long enough to introduce yourself. That's what these follow-ups look like. And lastly, don't be creepy, right? Don't stalk anybody. Don't follow up every day for 2 weeks, right? You're just following up a couple of times for a few weeks after you make initial contact. All right. So now let's see. Let's talk about mailers. This is the most effective way that we've seen, as a general rule, right, to grow your list, to grow your network. There are plenty of other ways to do it, and there are a million success stories of people doing it other ways. But the bulk of the success stories that we have seen with people growing their network has been through mailers. So we're going to talk about targeted and mass mailers. And again, at the end of this presentation, I will have a PDF that you can download. I'll have a QR code, or you can always reach out to me and it'll have a PDF that walks through all of this stuff and has some of the examples that we're going to be looking at here in just a moment. Okay. So, by the way, before I go on, yes, you can use that QR code to download the PDF. You can also reach out to me. Look at the bottom of the screen here. Email me, craig@dentalbuyeradvocates.com. Even better, you can schedule a call with me. I'd love to chat with you. And give you a few minutes with some personalized pointers, right? Okay, that being said, let's dive into mailers. 2 types of mailers, and you've seen them both. Yeah, you've seen more mass mailers than targeted mailers, but you've seen them both. A targeted mailer is sent to a few specific doctors who you have researched. Let's say you're moving to Nashville and you want to buy a practice in Nashville, and so you pulled up the ADA's list, or you just did some grueling Google searching or whatever, and you found 10 practices that are owned by dentists with gray hair. You don't really know that much more about them, but you know that, okay, this is somebody who's probably in the demographic that I'm trying to target. The practice seems like it's really well run, very successful. This is somebody I want to reach out to specifically. So I'm going to send them a targeted mailer. It's more detailed and personal, meaning it's detailed about you and it's personal toward you, right? You're letting them know who you are and why you're reaching out. But it's also more detailed and personal about them. This is where we get into what I was saying about being honest and finding something to compliment. Honestly compliment, right? Because you've researched them. Hey, this like the Google reviews thing would be a great example of this. I was poking around looking at practices in the area, saw yours, and saw that you have 250 Google reviews. That's incredible. I'd love to connect with you um, and talk about how you did that because I want to own a practice one day, and that would be a really valuable skill or a tactic for me when I'm in that role. Right? Okay. Mass mailers are exactly what it sounds like, a mass mailer. And this is where you get those credit card offers or whatever. It's blanketing an entire area with mailers. And so in this case, you might just get every dentist in the Nashville area. You get a list of them and you send a mailer out. This actually this sounds like you're just kind of throwing cash into the wind or something. You're not actually. Um, Believe it or not, these really do work. And I've got a great example of one that I'll show you in just a moment. But let's see. Let's see. I'm just double checking if there are any questions before I keep going. Okay, excellent. So let's talk about targeted and mass mailers. Let's go mass mailers first. I love this one. And I understand this is too small to see. Okay, this is why I keep telling you guys about the PDF that you can get from me. So email me or wait till the end of the presentation. I'll give you that QR code. This is in that PDF. Okay, so you'll be able to zoom in and actually see it a little more easily. But I love this mailer because what it's saying is, hey, I'm a current GP. I've got a residency to be completed soon. This was obviously a few years ago, and I am seeking a partnership opportunity. Right? You're putting yourself out there and telling them exactly what you want to accomplish. And then, on the back of the mailer there, you can see here's some more detailed information about me, a picture with, me with my wife and what have you. And then you're sending it out to everybody, and 98% of the doctors who get this are going to go, huh, okay, and throw it in the trash. But you're looking for that 2%. You're looking for the folks who go, oh, you know what? I know somebody who is also looking for a partnership opportunity or, looking to bring on a partner. There's another one, another example in that PDF that I absolutely love, which is, hey, I'm going to be graduating dental school soon. I'm looking for an associateship with the intent of one day purchasing a great practice. And that opens lots of doors for older dentists or just more established dentists to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I've been thinking about bringing on an associate. Or my other associate just bought a practice and left. I need to backfill that position. You're looking for that 2%. And often, sometimes I should say, often it's higher than that, right? But you're not counting on half the people you send mass mailers to getting back to you. This is just blanketing an area with this sort of thing. All right. So if we talk about targeted mailers, again, I know it's so small, but the principle here is hopefully visible. So on the left, we have something pretty similar to what we just saw. However, you're doing all the same things. Hi, my name is. Here's my situation. Here's what I'm looking for. But then you're also using this as an opportunity to do what I was talking about. I did my research. I learned a little bit about your practice. I'm very impressed by fill in the blank. And would love to pick your brain about that. Can we connect? I'll give you a call next week, right? And then here's the key to a nice targeted mailer versus a mass mailer. Mass mailers went out to everybody, right? You had a huge list and you just sent them out. In this case, you picked a few, and right here, I want to point this out. We've got a handwritten envelope with a real stamp. It's like a hand signed letter, right, in blue ink. So that they know this is a personalized letter going out to them. So that's just beautiful. If you want to go the extra mile, this is one of our all-time favorite examples. This is a client of ours who was looking for a practice and wasn't having the best luck with some of the other mailers and emails she was sending out. And so she just really went for it and created these gift boxes, bags, whatever. And it was these gorgeous gift boxes with a few things in there, right? A little coffee, a mug, nothing nothing super expensive, right? But she made 9 of these. She identified 9 dentists that she really wanted to talk with. She made 9 of these mailers. She sent out all 9 of them with, nice handwritten notes, just like the one on the left, right? And her response rate, she got 7 responses from these. 7 people out of 9 got back in touch with her. And one of those sold her the practice, as I recall. This was a few years ago. But this is, again, this is above and beyond, right? But talk about effective. Yeah, in fact, it says right there at the top, who's not going to open a package like this, right? So if you want to get noticed and get your name out there, targeted mailers are absolutely fantastic for that. All right. Now let's talk about maintaining your list. This one is going to go pretty quick. This will follow a similar principle as the follow-up that we talked about when you're growing your list, right? All right, you've got your list. It's growing now. You've got 10 names on there. You've got 50 names on there. You're getting close to 100 names. What are you doing with all these people? How are you maintaining your list? I say network. How are you maintaining your network? What does that actually mean? All right, so you remember the list that we talked about. Here's what you're going to do. Follow up every 3 to 6 months, okay? Not more than that, not less than that. You're not looking to annoy them, right? This kind of goes into the don't be creepy thing. Okay, creepy, that's a loaded word. Don't be annoying, okay? But you do want to maintain contact with these folks. And so this is one bit of spreadsheet magic that you can do. You can organize these spreadsheets so that the latest names that you contacted kind of drift to the bottom, and the ones who haven't had any contact from you for a while come up to the top, right? These spreadsheets are great for that sort of thing. Reach out every 3 to 6 months. Have a reason for it. Okay, and the reason could be as simple as, "Hey, I just wanted to reach out and touch base. No major changes on my end. Still looking for a practice in the Nashville area, and still very interested to hear if you hear of any opportunities." But it could be as simple as that. But the other reasons, you might have a question. You might have a light request, right? Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, if you have a question, hey, I was chatting with a dental school buddy of mine, and he mentioned this. Does that ring true to you? I wanted to bounce it off somebody who was a little more established in their career, right? Have a question, something easy, because the next thing is, don't make it a burden, right? You're not, if you want somebody to get back in touch with you and be happy to hear from you, all those sorts of things we talked about earlier, then don't make this a burden for them. Have a simple question, something that they can dash off a response to in 2 or 3 minutes, that sort of thing. All right. And it's as simple as that. It's rinse and repeat. Once you've got your list, you simply maintain the list. You can add as much as you want to it. If you've got your 100 names, by all means, keep adding to it. The reason I love maintaining your list, and I talk to doctors about this sometimes on the phone, is that among the most powerful things about the 80-20 rule, or at least the 80 part of the 80-20 rule here, spending 80% of your time networking with other dentists, building up this network, is because it's not just about the practice search. If you can maintain this network, then it is going to benefit you throughout your career, right? It's these are folks that you can turn to in kind of a mentorship capacity. If you just have a quick question, or I know dentists who run into health problems or family issues or some reason that they have to exit ownership sooner than they were hoping to do. And when that happens, they can turn to their network and say, "Hey, here's the situation. I need to sell my practice. I'd love to hear if any of you know of somebody who's looking to buy." Right? It can kind of go both ways. So this networking, this list that you're maintaining, it's not just about finding a practice. That is your immediate concern, but it will benefit you throughout your career, uh, regardless of whether this is the way that you find the practice or not. All right. All right. Oh, we've made it through the 80 part of the 80-20 rule. I'm curious if you guys have any questions. All right. So go ahead and drop questions in the chat. So whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, Your questions will come to me either way. Uh, in the meantime, coming up, I will do the 20 part of this. All right. Working with brokers is important. I mentioned earlier, there's a reason it's not the 50-50 rule, right? You weight it heavily toward building that network. But there's also a reason it's not the 100-0 rule, right? Brokers are important. We love a good broker around here. And working with brokers can net you a really great practice. Okay. So, as I often tell people, it is not a waste of time to work with brokers, get on their lists, and all of that. So, we will talk more about that another time. And finally, we come to it. This middle one, the QR code right there in the middle, is the PDF for how to find a dental practice to buy. It's going to have a lot of the same material that we talked about here. It's going to expand on a lot of that material. So, screenshot it, or, if you're on your desktop, pull up your phone and grab a photo of that QR code, and you can get the free download. And it'll expand greatly on what I've talked about here today. And then the other thing I would mention again is shoot me an email if QR code's not working, or you'd rather just get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. So shoot me an email. I'm happy to mail you this or email you this PDF directly. And we can chat about where you're at in the process. And I'm happy to offer, any tips, advice that I have on best next steps. If you write a mailer and you want to bounce it off somebody, well, in another life, I was a copywriter. I'm pretty good at it. So just shoot me your mailers. I'm happy to be a sounding board to bounce that off of. So Craig at dentalbuyeradvocates.com. I would love to hear from you. All right. So let's do a little bit of Q&A. Go ahead and put your questions there in the comments section. All right. Oh, okay. Ooh, this is good. Okay. So I have a couple of questions that I'm going to go over, but this from Supna, who actually works here at Dental Buyer Advocates and has a really great tip. I know some of my clients are concerned about being anonymous. Make an anonymous Gmail account, but give some info about you so a seller will know what you're looking for. This is awesome. I love this piece of advice. This is especially true if you are searching for a practice in the area where you currently live, where you're an associate or an employee, what have you. If that's the case, then anonymity can be important. And so, create a new Gmail account, and you can anonymize it. You can let them know some details about who you are without revealing your name, that sort of thing. So, if you're relocating, if you're in Virginia and you're moving to Seattle, I assume that that's less of a concern, but I know for some of you that will be. So Supna, that's a great addition. Thank you so much for that. All right. I did get a couple questions before the webinar started, so let's address those now. Oh boy, you know what? Ooh, yeah. We're going to come back to this one. I love this. How do I know it's the right fit? Okay, so I'm searching. I come across a practice. What do I do? How do I know this is the right fit? Let's come back to that, okay? Because I want to talk about this one first. The most common or biggest mistakes first-time buyers make when searching for a dental practice. Some of the most common mistakes. First of all, leaning too heavily on brokers. Now, I don't want that to sound again, I just said this 5 minutes ago, okay? So I'm going to reiterate it. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying brokers are some kind of waste of time, right? They are not. Their lists are great. Working with a good broker can be extremely effective. But if you spend all of your time searching for listings and waiting on the mailing lists from brokers, you are going to wait longer on average to find a great practice to buy. So that would be a big mistake, is not doing any of the networking stuff that we talked about. This is okay. We're going to get a little bit a little bit deeper here as far as why you person watching this video right now, why you should follow this 80-20 rule and get out there and build your network. It's because, frankly, let's see, we've got 17 people watching right now. At least 10 of you are not going to do this. Okay. You want to be one of the other ones who does. All right. I'm just speaking statistically. Honestly, because you're here at this webinar, I'm going to tilt the scales more in your favor of folks who are watching. But think about the folks you went to dental school with, right? You got your graduating class from dental school, or maybe you were in a residency program or something. Think about all those people, and out of 100 new dental grads, how many of them are going to do this? Very, very few. Most of them are going to count on those broker listings. They're going to fight over those broker listings. And meanwhile, if you took this advice and you built your network, and you let people know you were searching for a practice, you put yourself out there, you were bold, right? You were honest, and you followed up, you did all the steps, then you are going to, again, on average, get a better practice sooner than the person who leaned way too heavily on the broker side of things. The other mistake that people make is not strategizing how you talk about this. And we talked about, I mentioned this a few slides ago, but you don't want to come out guns blazing, right? You meet somebody at a CE event, it's an older doctor, you shake their hand and you say, hey, my name's Dr. Craig, and I'm looking to buy a practice. Can I buy yours? What's the answer to that? No. Right. So what you're looking for in this case is being diplomatic. That's a good word for it. You want to be diplomatic. You want to let people know why you're there, but you also need to recognize that, hey, you are asking them for some of their time and attention, and we'll just leave it there. So be diplomatic about it. Understand that out of those 100 names that you're putting on your list, maybe one of those will sell to you. Maybe, probably not. More likely, one of those names is going to know somebody who will sell to you, right? And so when you're being diplomatic, you're not, it's not a dog with a bone kind of thing, right? I gotta tell everybody, hey, I want to buy your practice. Are you ready to retire yet? Are you retiring yet? That sort of thing can get you in trouble. Remember, your list is, your network is folks who know you and like you and know that you're looking to buy a practice. And so be diplomatic, but also assertive. Okay, so yeah, it's a good question. All right, let's come back to this one. My husband and I came across a practice that we're considering buying, but how do you know if it's the right fit? It does about $2 million in annual revenue with 3 doctors, and we're replacing 2 of them. Okay, this is a great question. All right, so you're looking for a practice, you find one, and maybe it's a situation like this. I love a dentist power couple, right? But maybe it's something else entirely. But really, the basic question here is, how do we know it's the right fit? There's the very detailed answer that I could give you, that what I look for as far as surface numbers and whatnot as I'm looking through practices coming across my desk. I'll skip that for now and just give you the general response. How do you know if it's the right fit? First of all, go back to a previous webinar that I did with Dr. Amin. We talked about clinical fit. That would be a huge one, right? And it's a pretty obvious one, but hey, it's always nice to be reminded of the obvious things every now and then. So go back to that webinar about clinical fit. If you go to our YouTube channel, just search Dental Buyer Advocates, you can find our past webinars there. So that is there. So it's if it's a practice where, hey, they do tons of endo and you're more of a bread and butter kind of person, then no, it's not going to be a great fit, right? Okay, so that's an easy way to tell. In this case, it does about 2 million in annual revenue with 3 doctors. We're replacing 2 of them. Hey, that's fantastic. That sounds pretty nice to me. I'd be curious about the 3rd doctor. Is this an associate? How come they're not, purchasing out, part of this the portion of ownership or what have you? Or is it an associate? Or is this a partnership, a 3-way partnership? So I'd have some questions there. But ultimately, I've talked around it long enough. The answer to this question is you've got to get the practice valued. And what I mean by that is analyzed and valued, right? So evaluation from a company, yes, like us, and yes, I'm happy to throw our hat in the ring and kind of be a little salesy here and say, yes, this is what we're built for, is to help you know if it's the right fit. Okay, so a good dental CPA, uh, us or somebody like us, is going to be able to produce a valuation report that gets past just the numbers, right? So, for example, the valuation report that we do at Dental Buyer Advocates, it answers a few questions. Yeah, it gets into the finances, the numbers. That's obviously huge, right? But what we're asking is this the right practice to buy for you, right? Is this a good practice to buy? What's the right price to pay for it, and how much are you going to make as the owner of it? But wrapped up in these three broad questions are some very specific things. What is that procedure mix? Are you going to fit in as the owner and be able to do the clinical work that the sellers were doing? Does the clinical philosophy fit? Were they real go-getters as far as aggressive treatment plans, and you prefer to be a little more wait and see than they were? That can present some roadblocks for you as a new owner coming in. So there are lots of questions that our analysts and our reports can help you dig into. Um, but what you're not going to find is, as you're looking for practices, you're getting a prospectus from a broker, or what have you. Somebody says, "Yeah, I'm thinking about selling, and here's my ballpark number for annual collections." What you're not getting from that is an answer to the question that you're asking here. Is it the right fit? The only way you can really do that is to dig in really pretty well, right? We're talking about due diligence here. There's lots of different kinds of due diligence, and I'll do a whole webinar on what those words mean, due diligence. But part of due diligence is knowing if it's the right fit. So I guess what I'm saying is, as you do your practice search, there are some baseline things that you should be aware of, right? If you have a mountain of student debt and you buy a practice that is collecting 300K annually in revenue, you're going to be in a world of hurt, right? So you can throw some things out right away as far as, hey, it's just not doing enough collections. The procedure mix is not what I want to do, or what I'm capable of doing. There are easy ways to throw things out. That's fine. But to get to the answer of, is this the right fit for me? It's going to take more work and preferably a lot of help. Okay. Whether it's us or somebody like us, get some help to understand whether that practice is the right fit. Um, so I know that was a lot, right? To answer that question. Appreciate you hanging with me on that one. But let's get to some others. Oh, and I will say, let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, that's fantastic. We've got the previous webinar. Yeah, if you are on YouTube, it's in the comments there. On Facebook, it's also in the comments there. So you can go check out that previous webinar. All right, I have talked your ears off for quite long enough. Thank you, everybody, for being here for a live webinar. We are going to be doing plenty more of these. Thanks for signing up. I will let you know via email when the next one is coming up and what the topic will be, whether it's about working with brokers or due diligence or what have you. It's going to be great. So thank you so much again for attending. And this webinar will be available in both places, Facebook and YouTube, for you to come back to later. But in the meantime, I would love to hear from you. Once again, email me, Craig@dentalbuyeradvocates.com, or you can schedule a call if you just do /contact us from our website. I'd love to hear from you. Would love to bounce ideas off with you, brainstorm how you can best go about your practice search. And when you do find a practice that is worth looking into, of course, we would love to work with you on that here at DBA. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy your weekend.